Have our last act for the evening. She's super talented. She's super funny. She is from Bern, kinda. She's gonna tell you more about it. Y'all, make it loud for the very talented, very funny, our headliner, Katie McCoy, everybody.
Hello, friends. Hello. Thank you so much for being here, just for giving us this opportunity to tell jokes to you in this basement. This is so special. It really makes me feel at home. I want to set some expectations before my set. That's going to be the rest of the show. So first, I just want to ask again, I know Val already asked this, but make some noise if you've seen our shows before. Woo! Make some noise if you've seen me before. Woo! And you came back? And you knew it was free. I love that. Honestly, this is what I want. I want us to be friends, let's be honest. So, thank you for coming again, and also, I'm so sorry. I don't have enough material for you to have a whole new show. I am going to try to sprinkle in some new jokes here and there. Just think of it as like a concert where you're seeing your favorite artist, you know all the songs, you don't know the order, I'm going to sing them. But don't try to sing along because maybe I've changed my punchlines and you will look stupid. I don't want that. And I know there are some people here who know me in real life, off stage, so also to set expectations for you. Even though everything I'm saying is 100% true, it's a little exaggerated. It's kind of like a different version. But we're going to get really friendly tonight. I'm going to be sharing really personal things with you, things about shame and embarrassment and insecurities. Yeah. But I want it to be a two-way exchange. So with that being said, after every bit, I'm going to ask an audience member to share a secret with me. So start thinking about that. So we're going to begin with you. Okay, so you already have some time. Think about your most shameful secret. I'll ask you to share. No, I won't do that. No, don't worry about that. Guys, I am almost 40. I'll be 40 in 16 months. I'm very excited. I told my stepson that I'm 39, and he was like, "What?" I said, "If I didn't know you, you would look, I thought you were 23. And I was like, "That is so stupid." I mean, maybe to a 13-year-old, but like I was like you guys are in your 20s, right? Yeah, like I look my age. Like there's no one else is confusing me for 23. I'm excited to be turning 40, but I do miss the confidence I had when I was younger, like especially like age 6. I think I was like peak feeling myself. I really think, yeah. At age 6, I truly believed with my whole pure heart that I was an Irish princess. Some of you probably realize this was like a term of endearment that my parents were calling their Irish American daughter. I believed it was a title. That it was my identity, clearly a secret identity, since I was living in Clawson, Michigan, United States. But I had this belief because I had a t-shirt that said, "I am an Irish princess." It probably said like, "My daddy says I'm an Irish princess," but that's not how I remember it. I do remember asking my mother, like, "Am I really an Irish princess?" And she said, "Yes, Caitlin Kelly McCoy, your whole name is Irish." That wasn't really the part I was seeking clarification on. It was more of like the princess part. Now, my mother is a fabricator, an embellisher, an exaggerator, in simple English, a liar. So she said, "Yes, you are definitely a princess." And I was like, "Cool, weird, why am I sharing a room with 2 sisters? And why are we 7 people living in a 3-bedroom house?" Some things are not adding up. So my mother showed me a picture of an Irish castle, village unknown, and told me that this was our family's castle. And when I turn 18, if I'm a good girl and good in school, I will get to go home to this castle. I know, what a liar! It also never occurred to me that then my other siblings would also be like a prince and princess. You know, I had a brother and 3 sisters. But I just logic that away. I was like, well, I'm the oldest. I would clearly inherit the property. We've seen them, so. But I was such a good girl. I was really good in school, and I never told anyone the secret until one day my mom sent me to the door to distract the paper boy who was coming to collect money so she could look for her checkbook. What an old-fashioned sentence. And I didn't have a lot of small talk skills, so I was like, I'm an Irish princess. My mom says so. And I will never forget, because it was so devastating to me, he said, that's really cute. My mom says that I'm a little teapot. And I realized in that moment that my mom was absolutely right, and I should not talk about this. It was the last time I spoke to a peasant about my truth. You know, it's weird, when I think of this paper boy, I remember him being a teenager, and he was probably only 12, which was, double my age at that time, so it was quite impressive. And child labor laws were really loose then, I guess, because I also started working at 12. I was a babysitter. I had 4 siblings, and I'm really glad that I started that, because now I'm a nanny, and so I've had experience since age 12. I love being a nanny. One of my first jobs in the U.S., I met this little boy, and on the first day that I met him, the 6-year-old boy, he declared to me, I have a penis and you have a vulva. Some of you are shocked. I'm trained for this. I'm a professional. This is good. This is good things. This means that he's learning the proper words for genitalia. His parents are teaching him, so I said, that's right. I was not professionally trained for the next thing that he asked, which was, do you want to see it? But as a professional, I improvised and I said, no, thank you. But he didn't wait for my reply, and he still pulled his pants down. This is a delicate moment, because I want him to feel comfortable with his body. It is his own home, but he's basically flashing a stranger. He did ask for consent. That's an advanced lesson for a young man. But he didn't wait for the reply. Now he's gonna be like that kid that's knocking on the bathroom door as he's entering. You have to wait. So I was like, okay, hey buddy, it's okay that you did that here in the house, but let's make sure that you're not doing it outside, and it's really important that you wait for someone to reply when you ask. At this point, he's opened his butt cheeks, farted in my face, and went away. I was like, where is your sister? Give me a little girl to cleanse the palate. But I give a lot of props to the parents for teaching him these words, because I did not grow up like that. I grew up hearing that penis, vagina, vulva, these were dirty words, bad words, you couldn't say them. My parents always called them private parts. And I understand why they did that. They didn't want to have the hard conversations, but if you don't talk to your kids about it, where do you learn things? At school. You learn it from your peers, and then you might come home saying things that you don't know what you're talking about. For example, I came home from school saying, wacko jacko, touch my taco. This was during the time that Michael Jackson was being accused of pedophilia, and this was a phrase I heard on the playground. And so my mother was like, what are you saying? Do you even know what you're saying? And I was like, oh, something with Michael Jackson and Mexican food. She was like, it's really bad what you're saying. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe if he was wearing that white glove, someone would not want him to touch their taco. I had no idea. And so finally she just said, it's private parts. And that was all that I got. And I realized that this ambiguity has given me a lot of anxiety. And like, I still have anxiety to this day. I found a therapist, so it's fine. I'm working with a therapist. Is anyone else doing online therapy? Yeah. It's nice. It says, I wish I could do it in person, but I can't afford it. But I really like my therapist. I told him I'm having like a lot of anxiety, and it's making it difficult for me to make decisions. And because I can't make decisions, I feel exhausted all of the time, and then I'm feeling really depressed. And then I started talking about my depression, and so my therapist said, I have to ask you this. Are you thinking about hurting yourself in any way? And I felt this urge that I sometimes do to like make a little jokey joke in a serious situation. So I said, oh my gosh, making plans to hurt myself. That would require far too many decisions. And I would be absolutely exhausted. And he kind of chuckled and he was like, I need to be very clear. Are you making any plans to hurt yourself? And I was like, no, definitely not. I do sometimes fantasize that maybe I get hit by the bus or something. Just not like to be seriously hurt, but just enough to put me in like a little light coma. Because I've heard the Swiss hospitals are really nice. I'm paying a lot of money for this health insurance. That would be like a great way to spend my time. And he was like, it sounds like you just need a break. Maybe we could fantasize about that. Yeah, that could be. But then that would be my decision. And I can't do that. I realized that I get really nervous about like really stupid things. Like when I ended my therapy session with this therapist, I called him by the wrong name. And that was just like horrifying. So his name is Daniel Christensen. I hope none of you have him. And I finished the session and I was like, thank you so much, Chris. Oh, and just like ended it. And then I just sat with it for a while and I was like, that's not even close to his name. So then the next session, I was just like overcorrecting, like saying Daniel like way too much. And I was like, thank you so much, Daniel. You've been a big help, Daniel. You are doing a really great job, Daniel. I want to make sure that he knows that I really know his name. But yeah, I take things really personal. I have a really hard time with rejection. That's what Chris tells me. This difficulty was really hard for me in university because I was studying theater performance in university because I wanted to become an actress. I had done some community theater things. I had taken some classes. I'd also spent that year method acting as an Irish princess. So I thought this would be a great job for me. But then I found out in university that I'm just dramatic. Not quite the same thing. I was just having a really hard time getting cast. And I talked to my professors about it, and the only woman in this group of professors said, you just have a really difficult look to cast. I know. Like now looking back at it, I'm like, what a bitch, like fuck her. But like at the time, I was like, yeah, I thought so. Thank you so much. I'm gonna leave. I wish I could be one of those people that is like, I wanted to prove my teachers wrong, but that was not me. So I just left that meeting and was like, I'm gonna go to the art department. I'm going to be a model for the art students, and then maybe my body will inspire art. And then one of the artists mentioned to me after a session, he was like, if you're thinking about performing on stage, you might want to consider losing weight. But that I was less upset about because he's also a starving artist. And charcoal is expensive. I think he was just like, if we're gonna work together, I think one of us needs to have less material. I've always had very simple fitness goals. Like my goal has always been just that I can just stand up without rocking. Like that's enough for me. Like if I don't have to like rock to get out of my seat, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. But I did hurt my knee recently, and I have not been able to stand up properly since then. It's bringing back a lot of memories. We have to make a session with Chris. So I've gone to the physio, and my physio started using kinesiology tape with me. Do you guys know what this is? It's like this, yeah, it's very sticky tape. And the first session that I had with her, I was like, just to warn you, because you're going to see my bare leg, I don't shave my legs. She was like, that's fine with me. My friend's a feminist. No problem. She was like, it's really not a problem for me, but you know what's going to happen with the tape, right? I was like, well, you know, guys do it, so it can't be that hard. Yeah, so the good news is I don't have to worry about the tape ripping my hair out the next time, because it was a full waxing session. It's all gone. Yeah, I stopped. I haven't really been a person that shaves my legs very often since high school. I went to an all-girls high school, and it wasn't important to us to shave our legs, and you know, we had to wear these skirts all year round, and you know, you need the fur to keep you warm in winter. I just kind of always kept up that policy. But I did shave my head like a few years ago, and it really pissed off my dad for some reason. He was just like, you won't shave your legs, but you'll shave your head. But that was 4 years ago, and look at this hair now. And Daddy's still bald, so I think he was just jealous. I loved going to the all-girls school. It was a Catholic school, you know, and they taught me a little more than private parts, but not so much more. I really wish we had gotten better sexual education. Like, I wish that I had been taught in school more about how to say no to a man than to say no to drugs. I know that was just like, everyone was just like, no, for real. But like, I did find it like a little disappointing when I went to university, because I've been trained my whole life to say no to drugs. And then I went to university, and it turned out to be like really hard to get drugs. I have been trained for scenarios where people were going to freely offer me drugs. That was not the vibe ever. It was like, these are mine, you can pay me for them. We had this really interesting class in my Catholic high school about relationships. And I really appreciated that my school, they encouraged us to wait for marriage, but not in like a very heavy way, and just like, it'll be nice if you save your virginity for your husband kind of way. So in this class, we were taught that there are 13 steps to physical intimacy. That sounds crazy, but step one is like eye to body contact. So like, it's really working out. So then like step two is like eye to eye contact, and then step three is like hand to hand, and then you kind of work your way up. But the 13th step, what do you think the 13th step of intimacy is? That's a lot of steps. That's really sweet coming from a lesbian couple. You're like, oh, the highest step was oral sex. That's what we were taught. We were taught that step 12 is intercourse, and that step 13 is oral sex. Now, as an adult, I get this and I appreciate this, because it is a one-way action. It's pure giving. So it's very intimate, right? It's intimate to perform oral sex to someone because it's purely giving. But at 16, me and my girlfriends, we were like, if you want us to keep our virginity, I think we're gonna have to give some blowjobs once in a while, right? Like, at least. I know, like, for some Christians, they will do anal sex to preserve their virginity. That always seems so insane to me. Like, mouth is way easier. Insane. I found out one of my little sisters did this. Like, yeah, that she gave anal sex to her boyfriend before losing her virginity, and I was absolutely shocked. That is not princess behavior. Guys, I grew up in a state called Michigan. It's the Mitten State because it looks like this. Ooh, you know Michigan? How do you know that?
I'm from North Carolina.
Oh, okay. But actually, even for Americans, this is like an impressive thing to know. So you might notice that Michiganders use their hand to show you where they're from because this is what the state looks like. Okay, I don't mean to womansplain American states, but I realize not everyone maybe knows this. It's a peninsula, so it's surrounded by water, so it looks like this. So we will tell people like, oh, like we come from here. Like it's a map, like our hand is a map. And then I moved to the state of Florida, which is also a peninsula, a little different shape. Florida's shaped like a gun, so like this is like a much less cute example. But I also think those two examples are the perfect way to describe the culture difference between Michigan and Florida. You know, like Michigan's like, oh, we're the Mitten State, and Florida's like, we're shaped like a gun. You know, like. So Florida has this reputation for something called Florida Man. So this is it's like a meme, okay? Because there are so many strange headlines that come out of Florida. If you're not familiar with Florida, Florida is like the Australia of the United States. We've shipped all of our criminals there, and the culture is like beaches and booze. So Florida Man is a series of real headlines that come out of Florida that just sound absolutely insane. So I'll give you some examples. For example, Florida man gets tired of waiting at the hospital, steals an ambulance, and drives himself home. It's a pretty mild one. Florida man runs from the cops, hides in a swamp, gets stuck, is found by police dog licking his face. Florida man breaks into jail to hang out with his friends. Florida man denies drinking and driving allegations because he was only sipping at red lights. He wasn't driving. You can't catch him on that. So something really great happened to me when I moved to Florida because, okay friends, I have a criminal record. It's not woo, it's very sad. I'm very ashamed for it, I'm very embarrassed. When I lived in Michigan, I was arrested for drinking and driving. I don't really have enough time to explain to you that that's kind of normal. It's horrifying for most of you. I'm not saying drinking and driving is cool or fun. I have a lot of shame about this. Chris and I talk about it all the time. In the culture that I grew up in, if you were at a party and you had a little bit to drink, instead of someone saying, you should stay here, give me your keys, they would say, take the back roads home. Which means drive where there are no lights, and there's a higher chance that you'll hit a deer, but at least the cops won't catch you. So the problem that I have with this drinking and driving record in Michigan is it's extremely embarrassing because even though it's normal, obviously I was not very good at it. So I got a lot of shit for it in Michigan. But when I moved to Florida and I would tell people like, I'm really embarrassed, we call them a DUI, this is driving under the influence, or Dewey if you want to make it cute. So I would tell Floridians, I have a DUI, and they'd be like, yeah, that sucks, how many? And I was like, just the one, like, and they're like, oh, one? That's pathetic. I gotta get out there more. When I was living in Florida, I was a single lady, and I lived in a studio apartment, a very tiny apartment, and I had a very big bed in my apartment. That was pretty much the only furniture I had. And my mom came over and she was like, "What are you doing with this big bed? Like, get a smaller bed, you can get yourself a table, a sofa, you can feel like a real grown-up." It's like, I can't tell my mom that the reason I need a big bed is because I'm preparing for the future, right? Like, I'm sleeping alone tonight, but there will come a night that I will want to share my bed with the bed laundry that I was too lazy to fold. I need the space. On a particularly lonely night, I would mold that into a bed laundry boyfriend. I would cuddle up to it, and I would say dirty things to it, like, "Oh, I'm gonna do you. Tomorrow. I'll get to you tomorrow." During my single life in Florida, I used a lot of dating apps. Make some noise if you're on the apps. Any app at all? Is nobody doing this anymore? Is it over? Is it over? The kids are all right. Oh my gosh. If you've never spent 7 years on dating apps, you don't know the horror of constantly being disrespected, your time, your energy. I had a guy on a dating app come over to my house, spill a full beer in my bed, and then he was upset with me when I kicked him out. He was like, I know, he was like, "It's one beer," and I was like, "And that's my only furniture, you fucked up my whole house." I got really tired of ghosting. Like, guys on dating apps that would ghost me, like, we'd be talking, it's like, "Hey, when do you want to hang out?" And you're like, "Oh, maybe tomorrow." "When do you want to hang out?" "Maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow," and then silence. So I had like a little trick whenever someone ghosted me. I would just tell myself, "Well, he was probably texting and driving." And that maybe tomorrow was the last message he sent. It's a lot easier to handle ghosting when you believe that they're just an actual ghost. So, that was my method. That was my method. Yeah, while I was living in Florida too, I had a mental breakdown. I've learned since coming to Switzerland that you would call this a burnout. We don't have that word in the U.S. You're just a fucking loser. Can't handle life. No support. So I had a complete mental breakdown. I quit my job. I sold all of my things. I converted my car into a camper, and I was just going to do like some traveling around in my car. And that was amazing. I was like, this is like true freedom to just live in my car. My family was like, that's homelessness. But during this time, I also stopped drinking alcohol and started eating psychedelics. And then I realized I didn't have a mental breakdown. I could call it a spiritual awakening. Yeah, that's what privileged people call a mental breakdown. So I did like a really cool road trip in my car, and I went back to Michigan, and I went up. Maybe you guys don't know this, there are 2 peninsulas in Michigan. So I went up to the Upper Peninsula, to a part of the state I'd never been to before. If you've never been to the US, you're not from the US, you might not really understand how big it is. So I drove to a part of my state that I had never been to before because it was 7 hours away from where I grew up. I was visiting a lake in Michigan. It's Lake Superior. Fun fact for you, Lake Superior is twice the size of the whole country of Switzerland. This lake. Okay. you guys just have to know, it's fucking big. So I'm out there, I'm doing a solo camping, and I decide I'm gonna do like a 15-kilometer hike. My first night camping was amazing. I met another guy at my campsite, an older man. He was really concerned that I was alone, and he approached me and he asked if I had bear spray, which I didn't have, and then I started to realize maybe I'm really naive about this whole thing, because I'm out here alone, I don't know how to protect myself from bears. And he was like, oh, no, not for bears. For men, little lady. Okay, cool. Well, I didn't encounter any men. I did go on this very long hike. It was really beautiful. It was magical. At one point, a chipmunk, this like really tiny animal, came up, and I swear to God, he put his little paws on my shoes and looked up at me. I know, I was like, it's happening! Maybe I'm not an Irish princess, but I'm a Disney one! Absolutely magical. So I wanted to continue to have these kinds of experiences, so I went to Nepal, and in Nepal, I met my husband! IRL, not in a dating app. I did it. It's really cute because my husband has a video of me from the first night that we met, and I've always wanted a cute story. I've always wanted my billiards story, so I was so happy that my husband has this video. In the video, he's taking a picture of the bar, or the video of the bar that we're in. There's like a live band, and he's panning the room, and I'm dancing in the corner, and he zooms in on me in the video. Oh, isn't that so cute and so romantic? Thank God we got married. Otherwise, ew, that's so creepy. No, I loved it. So now I live in Switzerland. My husband and I, we got married really quickly because when you know that you need a visa to stay here. So, we're married, and I have stepchildren, which is really amazing. But all of my experience as a nanny did not really help with my stepchildren because they're a little bit older. So my kids were 10 and 15 when I met them. Now they're 13 and 18. And I really don't always know the line between what I'm allowed to say as a parent and if I should be more of like a friend or a peer. Like, for example, my 13-year-old stepson, he told me that he was going on a date, but it was with one of his buddies because they're not interested in girls right now. They're not worried about girls. And I was like, hell yeah, dude, bros before hoes. That is not an appropriate thing to say to a 13-year-old. It's especially not an appropriate thing to say to a 13-year-old who is learning English and has now asked me to translate. Now, bros before hoes is like a casual phrase that basically means invest more time in friendships. And don't worry about the ladies. And he was like, no, I got that, but like, what does hoe mean? And I was like, oh, that's private parts. I really enjoy hiking, but I have a kind of a problem with hiking in Switzerland. No chipmunks have approached me. So. But like, there's really like I feel a lack of wild animals in Switzerland. Like, I know you'll occasionally see a fox, you'll occasionally see an eagle, which, by the way, the first time I saw an eagle, I was with my husband, and I've never seen this animal before because they're not native to the United States. We keep them as pets, which I know is like not allowed, like really not allowed. But I saw this animal like run across the road, and I asked my husband, I was like, what was that? He said, oh, it was an eagle. I was like, no. There was a small animal that ran across the road. He said it was an eagle. And I said, I know what an eagle looks like. It is a symbol of my culture and my country. It is a symbol of our freedom. America, fuck yeah, I know what an eagle looks like. I was like, I think it was a hedgehog. And I Googled it, and I was like, see, it was a hedgehog, you know, like Sonic. He was like, yeah, eagle. You could have said Sonic. I would have understood. So now the only animal I feel like I interact with a lot on Swiss hikes are cows, and there's lots of different ones. You know, I'm always happy to see them. They are not so happy to see me, it feels like. I get really weirded out by the Swiss cows because, like, they'll be there doing their thing, you know, cling, 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 cling. And then you walk by. Like, Entschuldigung. Very Swiss of you. An American cow, if I pass by American cows, they run up to the fence and they're like, hi, hello, will you pet me? Will you want to be my friend? A lot like Americans. I need to get in better shape for hiking. I don't know what shape I'm going to get into. Because when I was growing up, I was told that hourglass is like the sexiest shape for a woman, but I think that is not realistic. I think the more realistic shape for a woman is lava lamp. Because that's a shape that's a little different every time you see it. Sometimes the bubbles are here, sometimes the bubbles are up here. What I'm trying to tell you is that my body is changing. You're a young crowd. You're gonna get there. Let me explain something to you. So once I realized I wouldn't be an Irish princess, I dreamed of becoming a mermaid. And so my dream has always been that I can grow my hair long enough to cover my boobs, which is a qualifier to be a mermaid. Every girl wants mermaid hair, right? Every girl wants it. I'm so close to achieving mermaid hair, but I am in a losing race with gravity because my breasts have migrated. And sorry girls, but it's not just south, it's to the coasts. They have moved right into my armpits. If I didn't have a bra on, they look like two sisters that cannot be in a picture together. I want you to understand, I love my body. It's just that now that I'm close to 40, I have boobs, and in my 20s, I had tits. There is a difference. There's a big difference. I'm going to explain it to you, and I want you to take any pictures out of your mind. It's not, the difference is not about what they look like. Just think of the words. So just picture the word tits, okay? Tits. That's a short word. That's a 2T. That's a pointy, perky word. Tits is up and about, and we're having fun. Tits. I used to have tits. Now I have boobs. Boobs. It's going to be less of a motorboat situation and more of like a paddle ride. You're going to get on board and you're going to have fun. I always want to end my sets with something profound. Some kind of message to share with the world. And so I have a message for all of you girls in here in your 20s. Make some noise. I know you like to do it. Make noise. All right. I have some advice. Not advice, I implore you. Take pictures of yourself. Take pictures. You don't have to send them to anyone. You just keep them for yourself. Just take pictures now, because if I want to take a picture of myself now, I have to change my camera mode from portrait to panorama. Start from here. You have to go slow. My husband's gonna like that one. My friends, you have been so much fun tonight. Thank you for being here.